The functionality of the phone when it comes to marketing and advertising, and all of the many things that it's starting to enable that you may not even be aware of and that people didn't even think of a year or two ago. Much of what I'm going to talk about today are capabilities that have been launched in the last 12 months, and they're continuing to evolve. And it's kind of surprising, I think, what you'll see, what we're doing with data and what others in the industry are now doing with data. What's driving this is an increasing amount of data. If you take a look at this chart here, this is just looking at media usage, and particularly phone usage over the last 5 years. And if you take a look at that green line there, you'll see that, go back to 2011, people were spending almost 3/4 of an hour on their phone doing something other than talking. So that's obviously a huge change in itself. But what's evolved over the last few years, if you look on the right-hand side, 2016, people are projected to be using their phone 3 hours a day. There's a phone or a tablet, 3 hours a day for something other than talking on their phone. But we see on average about 120 million different mobile devices a month. It can go higher than that, and that's probably about half of them, or a little more than half of them. But fundamentally, you have to understand the location, right? And that is the lat long that's passed back, right? You have to have essentially lat long data to work with, and ideally, you've got to work with really good lat long data. So the first thing to get to that data, and I'll talk about how bad a lot of it is, but you have to scrub it, and everybody to some degree scrubs it to get out the bad stuff. Now, as you can see, we're getting a lot more precise. The industry is getting a lot more precise in terms of identifying and understanding where people are. And what this opens up is the ability to really understand people and audiences and be able to target against that information when they're building digital ad campaigns, not just mobile campaigns, as I'll talk about, but digital campaigns. This can get pretty specific. I'll just give you an example of something I just worked on within the last few days, and that was an advertiser who wanted to find hunters in Ohio and Minnesota. And we kind of scratched our heads, right? But it's amazing the kind of ways you can come up with to find hunters, right? Obviously, if they're at hunting and fishing stores, Cabela's or whatever, right? You can find them that way. But you can also find them at independent gun shops. You can find them at gun ranges. You can find them, there are locations just for gun education. You can find them there. There are places that are designated places for hunting only. You can find them there. And I forget a few more, but we were able to actually identify a pretty large segment and millions actually of users that were hunters or likely hunters in Ohio and Minnesota. Yes, one of the things that we do, I didn't show the chart here, but for example, for when we're looking at actual location visits, one of the things we do is we look at it over 14 days. So you can see if somebody was exposed to an ad today, were they seen it the sort of the same day or anywhere up to a day after, second day after, up to 14 days after. So we're looking at that. You know, example of what's coming. What somebody hasn't figured out yet is what are all those physical real world places on those 70 stores in that building, right?